Nightwork, a Dave Brandstetter mystery. Author Joseph Hansen. Publisher Open Road Integrated Media. Narrator Eric Aust. Chapter 14. He was eating a hamburger. Cecil made hamburgers with lots of mayonnaise, ketchup, sweet pickle, relish. The paper napkin in which Melville's was wrapped was soaked with all these, and the juices of rare ground beef, tomato slices, onion slices. He came down the room through the circles of soft lamplight, the soft flicker of firelight, and laid another hamburger swaddled in a napkin on the desk in front of Dave, who nodded and watched it begin to ooze through the napkin while he wound up his talk with Salazar. Was Angela Myers in on Kilgore's plan for Paul? Sorry to disappoint you, Salazar said. That would lose her the insurance, wouldn't it? Whether they actually killed him or not. Conspiracy to defraud, I questioned her. In my opinion, she didn't know Kilgore was using her. She's sick about it. She'll never speak to him again. At Salazar's end of the line, someone shouted his name in the background. Listen, my wife's on the other line. I'll talk to you later. Don't do anything crazy, all right? Dave said he wouldn't and cradled the phone. He regarded the hamburger on the desk and pushed it toward Melville, who was standing, chewing, wiping mouth and fingers on his ruined napkin. Dave told him, You have that one, too. I finished a big lunch only an hour ago. Melville wrinkled his forehead. You sure? And Dave nodded. Melville tossed the crushed napkin sidearm down the room into the fireplace, where the flames were lapping around the logs now. He picked up the second hamburger and lovingly peeled back half the wrapper. That's Cecil, he said. Make the best burger I ever tasted. Something about my people. What they cook tastes better. Dave grinned. I taught him everything he knows. Bring that chair over and sit down. It was a wicker barrel chair. Melville's stocky body fitted it exactly. Who is the Duchess? Dave said. I don't know her real name, Melville said. Don't guess nobody know that. She's a broker. Work for factories that wants to get rid of poisons the cheap way. Hire truckers to take it off and dump it wherever they can. No questions asked. Did your dad tell you this? Melville looked ashamed. I wanted to know what he was doing nights. We used to have good times together. Basketball games, Dodgers, boxing, all that stopped. It says with the new taxes and all that, he had to get more work. I don't know. Melville shrugged, took a large bite from the hamburger. A scrap of lettuce pulled loose and hung at the corner of his mouth. He poked it inside. He spoke with his mouth full. I'm mad at him or jealous or curious. A little of each, maybe. I wanted to be with him. He wouldn't take me. Of course not. Melville swallowed. He knew how dangerous it was. Most truckers that did it. They knew. Acids to burn you. Poisons to make you sick. Fumes to make your eyes itch. So you're nearly blind. And give you cancer. Make your wife's babies come out deformed. And yet they did it? And Dave sipped his drink. The Duchess paid big bucks, man, Melville said. He wouldn't take you. How'd you learn? Sneaked in the cab. They had a big space behind the seat. Sometimes some rigs at living quarters. A bunk, all that. Hid myself back there. Saw it and heard it. Oh, scared me half to death. Dad never knew. I never said a word. I also never went with him again. And Dave lit a cigarette. Where did this happen? I'll show you, if you want to go there. A truck stop? Rest area? Will the Duchess be there? Sooner or later. This would be a good night. Raining. Not all that much traffic out late. If I were you, I'd be afraid, Dave said. Melville shrugged and munched his hamburger. A ring of raw onion tumbled down his front. He bent to pick it up off the floor. He carried it to the fireplace. If it killed your father, you'd want to do something about it if you could, wouldn't you? And Dave's drink was only ice now. No scotch. He rose and went into the shadows where the bar was and built a new drink. A few minutes ago, you didn't think I could be much help. Cecil told me about your track record. The firelight flickered orange-red behind Melville. You're a real live private eye. I didn't know they had those. You don't look it. You don't act it. You famous too. He poked a last bite of hamburger into his mouth, wiped his mouth with the destroyed napkin, wiped his fingers, tossed the napkin into the flames. Yes, I should have known. He came back to the desk. The straw chair creaked under his weight. Did your mother know what your dad was doing? Dave sat in his desk chair, high-backed, leather swivel. The Duchess seems to think so. I don't know what Mama knew. I got it together when Paul Myers came over when Dad was sick and had that magazine article about the symptoms you get from handling toxic waste, pollutants, all that jive. You overheard their talk. I plain listened. Something those drivers said at the truck stop came back to me. I wasn't sure what it meant at the time. Then when Paul talked about what was in that magazine, I understood. Your mother said Paul left the house angry. He was going to expose the Duchess and the whole rotten operation. That what he say? Melville laughed wryly to himself and shook his head on its thick neck. Folks talk big at bad times like that. It's the mob back of the Duchess, ain't it? Organized crime. What's some nobody truck driver going to do against organized crime? Dave said, I think he meant it. I think he tried. He loved your father. You know, I read that magazine article. It must have been obvious to Paul from that your father was going to die. Tried how? Melville peered into the darkness behind Dave. There's water back there. And glasses, Dave said. And ice. Help yourself. There's a refrigerator under the bar, if you want a cola. Water'll be fine. Melville pushed up out of the chair. A cola right in your teeth and make you jumpy. He went into the darkness, silent on his soft-soled shoes. Those babies. You think they grasshoppers now? Ice clacked into a glass. Water jumped in a small steel sink. Used to be they was into cola. Ooh. They was nonstop. 18 hours a day. Melville came back with the glass and sat down again. What made you say he tried? The Duchess brought her boys and beat up Paul's wife. Melville frowned, cocked his head. Her? Not him? I thought they broke your legs. You can't drive a truck with broken legs, Dave said. The Duchess preferred to have things both ways. Paul frightened into silence and still working for her. She managed that by abusing and threatening his family. Melville was staring gloomily at the fire. Yeah, it wasn't herself Mama was scared for. Taking off for Halcon that way right after the funeral. It was for us. Told me 10 times a day, never said nothing to nobody about what happened to Dad. None of it. His laugh was brief and bitter. I wasn't about to. I knew more than she did, and what I knew scared me, so I was afraid to go to sleep nights for fear I'd say something in a nightmare. He shook his head sorrowfully. Turned out, she the one who talked, and look at her now. Dave frowned. Doesn't add up. The Duchess came for the truck. She got the truck. She went off with it the night before Cecil and I talked to your mother. Then who fired at you from the rifle range? Accidents have happened there, Dave said. The storekeeper's dog was killed. That had to be a stray bullet. A customer was wounded carrying sacks out to his car. The dog and the customer weren't trailing the Duchess, Melville said. Asking Paul Myers' widow questions, drinking coffee with Ossie Bishop's widow. There's Smithers, Dave said. Tall, bald, drives a Mercedes. Melville looked at him curiously and nodded. Dave added, Did your mother tell you what Smithers wanted? Pretty much what you wanted, Melville said. What was Paul carrying up in Torcito Canyon the night he got killed? Exactly where did he take it? Stuff like that. Melville got out of the chair, went to stand looking at the fire. The flames had died down. There was a lot of smoke. He shifted the screen aside, found the poker, and jabbed at the logs. Sparks flew up the chimney. Oh, and about Ossie. He wanted to know, did Ossie ever go up that canyon? See, he knew Ossie got Paul the night work. He learned that from Angela Myers, Dave said. What are you worrying about Smithers for? The flames worked on the logs again. Melville rattled the poker back into his glinting brass rack and hauled the screen once more across the rough brick hearth. You think it was him shot at you? Shot my mama? A man who goes around passing himself off as someone he isn't just naturally worries me. I know what the Duchess's stake is in all this. Where does Smithers fit? And Dave drank, scowled, chewed his lip. How did he locate your mother? Angela didn't tell him. She doesn't know. Did he follow Cecil and me to Halcon? On that long drive, had Dave been too concerned about Cecil to notice a conspicuous car trailing them? mile after mile. Shouldn't reflex have alerted him a lifetime's experience? The years were catching up to him, and he was losing sharpness. Annoyance at himself was in his voice when he said to Melville, "What does Smithers want? Where is he?" "Maybe he after the Duchess, too." Melville came back to the desk. He watched Dave light a cigarette. "You shouldn't do that. Ruin your lungs." Dave picked up his glass. "Alcohol, too. Make you old before your time." "It is my time," Dave said and drank. "All right. To hell with Smithers. We'll go up to the Duchess." He examined the boy's square, solemn face. "You really want to show me that truck stop? Is she the deadly lady? You want to try to take her?" Melville sounded awed. "I'd prefer to leave it to the sheriff. He has troops. I have a feeling troops are going to be needed. But you don't want anything to do with the sheriff." "If Mama die," Melville said, "who going to look after those babies except me?" He laid a hand on the telephone. "Do you think if I was to get on here now and tell the sheriff what I know, I'd still be allowed to testify when they put the Duchess on trial?" He withdrew his hand, sat down. His look at Dave was grave. "If it was a matter of troops, Mr. Bannister, how come she never been on trial yet? This been going on since before I was born. They never going to catch her. Nobody know who she is." "Maybe we can find out." Dave rolled open a deep drawer of the desk meant to hold files, but holding cameras, binoculars, tape recorders, elaborate and expensive equipment, none of which he had ever found a use for. "It will help to have a picture of her, won't it?" He lifted out a camera by the long strap on his case. "Something for me to show to Lieutenant Salazar to accompany my description of the Duchess' work and play, mine and Cecil's." He looked at Melville. "Not yours. We'll keep you a secret." Beside the camera on the desk, Dave laid a camera shop sack filled with little boxes. "How far away is this place? When should we start?" Melville peered into the sack. "You can't use these. Flash one bulb, everybody leave." "Not those. This." Dave probed the sack and brought out a box of film and held it up. "Infrared sensitive for taking pictures in the dark." He unsnapped the camera case. "When do they meet at this truck stop?" "Late midnight." Melville watched Dave turn the camera over in his hands. Frowning, Melville said, "You don't even know how to get the film in there, do you?" Dave held it out to him. The stocky boy put his hands behind him, shaking his head. "Don't ask me," he laughed. "There's going to be some evidence-gathering expedition." Dave set the camera down. "Cecil will know," he said. The door flew open and the small boys hurtled in. Two of them, the third, the chunky one, was riding on Cecil's back. Cecil rolled his eyes. "Will somebody please take these monkeys off my hands?" The two skinny ones rattled up and down the stairs again, raindrops sparkling in their hair. "Cool it!" Melville shouted. They came to a halt and stared at him. The chunky one slipped silently down off Cecil's back. They stood chastened. Melville looked at Dave. "What are we going to do with them? Do you know any babysitters?" "Amanda," Dave said, and reached for the phone. Amanda said, "But I don't know anything about children." "We were all children once," Dave said. "Some of us still are." "Aha," she said. "I'll bring electronic games." Gay Mysteries audiobooks. I think it is easy to hate a label, but a face humanizes the word. So this effort is twofold. To offer comfort to those like myself that your world didn't end because you don't fit into the view of acceptable society on both sides. And in hopes of helping those with family that are LGBTQ, that it doesn't mean we are aliens from the child they once knew. Reassure them so they can maybe be supportive at the same time, being true to their values.